Thanks,
don't
Ed.
forget about me.
Oh, who could forget about you?
There you go.
Sometimes we want to forget about you, but we just can't.
Oh, the gloves are already coming off.
There's the cheap shot right there.
Welcome to iAccess VO with Brian Fischler and Ed Plumacher. Making it happen with VoiceOver accessibility. And now, here's Brian and Ed.
Welcome back to yet another episode of iAccess VO. Ed, it's been a little bit slow of a news cycle.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of getting in the that dull period between the rumors flying and I guess was it WWDC or whatever they call it?
Yeah, something. Worldwide Developers Conference. I thought it was like a wrestling thing or something at first. The first time I heard it, WWDC. Well, I was like, yeah, well, they have WWF, WWE, so why not WWDC? But no, Ed, it has been a slow news cycle, but there's been some interesting articles out there because I don't know who did it. I don't know if it was CNN, some tech site, but I've got a personal question for you. Do you ever fantasize about boning Alexa?
About what?
Boning Alexa.
Oh, what are you going to band camp this summer or something? Jeez.
I'm not you.
No.
Well,
why?
You did read the article I sent you, right?
Yeah, I did. I'm teasing. I did read the article. It was kind of frightening, to tell you the truth. So in the article, the good thing is it was a very small sampling rate. I think they said they sampled 102 people between 18 and 65. So, you really can't put a lot of credibility in something like that if you're going to quote numbers and things. But they said that over a third of people who use voice assistants like Siri and the Echo, they fantasize about the person or wish the voice was a real person. And I'm like, well, that's a little strange. And then it goes on to say how a quarter of those people have had a sexual fantasy about the voice. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I'd love to know where they're getting these samples from because I guess nobody I know would admit this, and me. I have to be honest. I have fantasized beating the crap out of Siri. And I do not believe in domestic violence, so I don't think of her as a real person, but I have fantasized strangling whatever Siri is.
Oh, I'm sure many a device has been thrown against the wall or thrown into the ground out of frustration for dealing with voice assistants at times. So, on the flip side of this article, maybe the guy should do a story about that.
Yeah, but this was definitely, somebody, a reporter who had to meet a deadline, and it was a very slow news cycle that they said, I mean, who even thinks that? Let's write an article about how many people are fantasizing about boning Alexa, because I don't want to set anybody's device off.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's going to get worse with the launch of their new product, the Amazon Echo Look, because now that device, from what I understand, is going to be able to have a camera in it and interact with you and tell you, if your clothes match, if this outfit looks better on you or fits better than that other outfit. So there's going to be some more personal interaction there, and it's just going to get... I guess it's going to be more predominant how people feel about their voice assistant.
Yeah, it's driving me nuts because we're getting so much closer to me just eventually hearing big fat head. Now that these devices can see you, it's going to be like, don't even bother leaving the house, man.
You could go, hey, which outfit should I wear? And it's going to go, wear the black one.
First off, all I own is black clothing, but second off, it's going to say to me, put the sweatpants back on. No, so, I lounge around the house in sweatpants all the time, and sweatshorts, and, but, Yeah, at first when I heard about this device, I was like, oh, are you kidding me? But then when I thought about it, I said, this could be something that could be very interesting for blind people. I mean, something that would tell them that they've got, matching colors on, or that they're, looking stylish, or, my biggest thing is just fitting into clothes. I don't care what it looks like. That's my concern.
Yeah, well, it'll probably tell me not to wear the hat with the propeller on the top.
You have one of those that you can flick around?
I don't have one now, but I have to admit I did have one as a kid.
Oh, you are such a nerd then, man.
When I was a kid, it was the Cecil and Beanie show. I think Cecil was a sea monster, and Beanie was a kid that ran around and was his friend, and he had a hat that had a little propeller on it.
You've completely lost me, but you probably were one of those people that had to walk up hill both ways to school in a foot of snow, weren't you? Back before they had modern transportation.
Yes, but the one thing I never did have, I never had a pocket protector.
What about a pocket watch?
Yes, I did.
Oh, my God. If I would have known that you had a propeller hat and a pocket watch before we started recording this podcast, this just wouldn't exist. The show, I couldn't do a show. So, hey, if you're out there and you've never owned a pocket watch, or you've never owned a propeller hat, or if you've wanted to bone Alexa, let us know at iAccessVO, or email us in your story at iaccessvo@gmail.com.
Before we leave the fashion statement, I have to say one thing, that I am looking to add one more thing to my wardrobe. I have to get me one of them Scotty vests.
What's a Scotty vest?
What's a Scotty vest? Come on, it's like the latest tech attire. It's these vests that have like pockets for everything. I mean, you can put your iPad in there, you can put all your devices in there, and it's just everywhere you turn is a pocket in this thing. It's awesome.
See, those things, those things freak me out because I never could remember what pocket I put my iPhone in, and I'm searching all around, and then I grab my back pocket, and I'm like, oh my God, my butt's gotten that big. It's a rude awakening, man. So, yeah.
I still have some vision, Brian, and I can tell you, yes, it has.
No, I've got a nice backside, I've been told. If I went to prison, I would be, I would not be liking life. Let's just put it that way.
All right. On that note, we'll move on to the most.
Ed, well, what I was going to say before, we wrapped up that story was, Ed, I've invested a lot of money in the Echo device. I've got the Echo in the living room. I've got the Dot in the bedroom. I don't see me getting a look, not just right now, but I'm a little disappointed that I'm now hearing that. I guess we've got the Echo 2.0 coming out pretty soon, maybe as early as next month. It's Project Night or something it's being called from Amazon. I just can't believe I'm going to have to get a new device, The thing I'm hearing about the new Night device, the Echo 2.0 as I'm going to call it, I don't know how I feel about it because it's supposedly going to have a touch screen and there's going to be video involved, and I'm not so sure how the accessibility of this product is going to be.
Accessibility? Why do I need to have a touch screen and video on my Echo device or my Dot? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, if I want to interact with it with a tablet, I have an app on my iPhone. I can use my Fire tablet if I need a touch screen. I like the fact that this thing just sits in a corner and I don't have to touch it.
Well, the reason they're talking about having the screen is they're supposedly with this new 2.0 version, you're going to be able to make video calls from it.
Well, okay, so I guess so the camera would be there as a way to see how you look in the screen as the camera. So it's going to have to have a camera in it as well.
Well, no, it would be so the person that you're talking to could see you.
Yeah, so you have to have a camera in your device so they can see. Oh, so you can see each other. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know about this. I don't know how it's going to take off because if I want to talk to somebody, why can't I just call them on my cell phone?
Yeah, and I could do without the video calling on the Echo device. Just give me VoIP. Just give me the ability to make calls over Wi-Fi with that device, and I'd be happy with that. Or run an app like WhatsApp or something like that.
Have you ever tried to make a call from the Amazon tablet you bought?
No, I have not. I've done it. I do it on my iPhone with all the different applications.
I haven't either. I'm sure you can. I'm sure there's an app for that, but it's something. I'm sure you could get Skype on it or something because you are connected to the Droid store. But how many places do we need to be able to make calls? It's I already get bothered enough between my home phone and my cell phone. The last thing I need is my Alexa device ringing too.
Well, you know what you can have? You can have another device for notifications.
Well, you know me with those notifications. So you're saying that they should invent a new device that could give me notifications from my computer, my phone, and my Echo all to one device, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. You know what? That would probably be easier to deal with than having them all going off simultaneously.
Yeah, that's true. I like the iPad, the fact that I could just close the case that it's in, and it doesn't talk anymore. And I try and open it real slow. You remember those old commercials? Parquet butter. You remember those? You just open it real slowly. I'm trying to get it Parquet butter. You remember those great commercials from the 80s?
Yeah, I remember that.
They don't make good commercials anymore.
No, and even people watch the Super Bowl to watch commercials, and I think they've been very disappointed lately.
That's the amazing thing. In the 80s and 90s, the games were terrible, but the commercials were amazing. We flip-flop. The games are now amazing, and the commercials are awful. So I'll take a better game because that last game was unbelievable. That Patriots comeback. But
that's right.
And are you using any smart plugs in your home or Amazon Alexa smart plugs?
No, I haven't taken the Echo to the next level where I would deal with the lights or the plugs or the power outlets and things like that, or the Nest thermostat. So I haven't gone that route yet. It's an expense to start doing that, and I don't see the need for it yet. But we'll see how it develops.
Yeah, I don't have a need. I barely ever turn my lights on just when company's over, and then they ask me to turn the lights off because then they can see what I look like, and that's not good for anybody. But I haven't found a need for this. I thought about it with the coffee maker, but it'd be nice to while I'm snoozing to tell the Echo device to make coffee, but you still have to load the filters and the water, and so it's like, what's the point? I don't really think I have any devices that I think the smart plugs are really cool, but I only have like 5 outlets in my entire apartment.
Yeah, the closest thing I could see you getting to work with like that would be a Fire Stick, and the last thing you need is another entertainment device hooked into your television set.
Well, that wouldn't be going into a plug. That would be into the... the only thing I could think is if I eventually get a ceiling fan, maybe plug that into a smart plug. That'd be kind of cool but do you really need that? I mean, I'm sure the fans all come with remote controls nowadays, and that would sit right next to me. So yeah, I don't know if anybody's really using it. I don't know if they've taken off. Have you heard if these things taken off real?
Of dots all through his house, and even went out and got he drilled the wall so that the dots are recessed in the walls and ran the power to them and everything, and he had all his lights hooked up. But the thing is, like, you have to. Each device is individual, and you have to remember the name for each device. And if you don't say it properly, it doesn't turn that light on or that light off. It doesn't work where you could say turn all the living room lights off if you've got 4 or 5 lights in there and things like that. So it's it's got some ways to go yet, but I guess it's getting there.
Yeah. I've known some people that have built homes and bought homes, and none of them have built a smart home, though, where everything's fully automated and everything. So it doesn't really sound like it's blown up like I would have, if I was a gazillionaire or just had regular people money, if I would have built a house.
I remember friends building homes back in, I guess it would be the early 90s or mid 90s. And, they were like, oh, we just had the Cat 5 pulled all through the house. So we have internet connection in each house. And the next thing you know, people are plugging in Wi-Fi routers.
It's unbelievable. So have you gotten a chance to, since we last recorded, Microsoft released a new app called Office.
Actually, this has been out for a little while now. I believe I downloaded this in late 2016 or early 2017. I can't remember when. And I found it a little, not that user friendly and not super intuitive to use, and I had to link it in with my Microsoft account. But once I did that, I could take a picture of something, and all of a sudden it was shared to my OneDrive, and then I could have it sent to Word. I could send it as a PDF. So, and then from there, using my my other assistive technology, I could have anything read to me that I wanted to. So it was pretty cool. But this works well for like if you're in a school environment, you're taking pictures of whiteboards and things like that. So it's a great way to retrieve a lot of that information. So, not a replacement for my KNFB reader, but another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, and I've heard mixed. Some people are having great results with it. Some people not so much. I haven't really played around with it, but we did want to mention it. For people out there that have not bought KNFB reader. Hey, you can't beat this. I mean, this is free, and it might take a little bit of a learning curve, but if you don't have an OCR app on your phone, this seems to be an option and everything. And like I said, you can't beat the price when it's free, and you got to give Microsoft credit for continuing to innovate.
Right, and you and I have played with a lot of these types of apps over the last year and a half that we've been doing the show. And I remember when right around when we started the show, you had looked at AIPOLY, AIPOLY. You remember that one about the object and text recognition? And I remember you taking a picture of Nash, and it came back and said, yellow dog.
You've heard they've made some good strides with the app, right?
Yes, I've heard they've made some good progress with that. So maybe you should revisit that one. And then you and I both talked about Identify not too long ago. That was this young guy in Canada had developed this app, and I had pulled that up today, and it looked like the interface had been updated, looked a little more user friendly, but I still couldn't get it to work today.
I haven't seen any updates for it.
Yeah, no, it looked like the interface had changed, so I must have updated at some point from what I remembered. And then I went back to the old reliable from CamFind, the old TapTapSee, and that just worked really, really well. And it took a picture, it told me what it was said on the screen, and told me what it was looking at my computer, my monitor, told me the type of monitor. It said Dell on it, so it recognized that as well. So it's pretty amazing stuff that's out there, and all that is free. But what I really liked is I went and took a look at, after we had talked about this, BeSpecular, and I hadn't been there for a while, and that was really, really working well today. And they added something that I don't remember it having before, where now you can take multiple pictures of the same object, and then you can put your question or your request out for assistance. You can send it out as voice, or you can type it in text. And if you remember that's the one where you get people respond to you, and you can choose who to work with and things like that. So that was working really well today. I was very impressed with BeSpecular. Another free app that's very good for blind visually impaired for object and reading and identification.
It was funny, just to backtrack a little, when you said initially that you're going back to old reliable, I thought you were going to say your eyes. To help you identify things. I'm like, hey, if those things work.
Well,
yep.
I can't do that because they're just old. They're not reliable.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. But, I don't really, these identifier apps, fortunately for me, I went blind much later in life, so I pretty much know what objects are and don't really need a lot of help identify. I do like the BeSpecular as well as Be My Eyes. The one thing with BeSpecular that drives me nuts, though, and hopefully they fix this, is sometimes when you get like multiple responses, I have trouble flicking to getting all the responses, and then I want to go take another picture, and it'll tell me first you need to view all the responses. I'm like, I'm done with that, So it's sometimes you get stuck in these little. You've got to look at everything and then rate everybody, and it's a little much at times.
Yeah, I think you should revisit it though, because I like that like you could take multiple pictures of the same object, just spin it around, get it from all angles, and then post your question. So now people are able to just address that, and in doing so, you can you'll get a more clarified response and a more accurate response, because there are all these different vantage points that you can take the picture from.
Yeah, and that's really useful with cans where you're not sure if you're if sometimes you're taking a photo of the ingredients instead of the name of the product. that sort of thing. So that would be really useful with any kind of canned products or frozen foods and stuff like that. So now these apps are, they're becoming more and more useful. And as always, if you're using them in the bathroom, remember there's mirrors. These people can see you. So just use some common sense, because you don't want your kibbles and bits to be shown to everybody. But
yeah. Make sure you're dressed before you start taking pictures.
Well, yeah, I heard that old story, and it's probably an old wives' tale about the woman who was using one of these apps, and she says, "Which one's the shampoo?" And the guy says, "The one in your left hand, and I can see you in the mirror."
Yeah.
Who knows if that's a true story, but it's a classic. So I always enjoyed that one.
I was in Dallas with a friend of mine, and he used a Be My Eyes app, and it was pretty good because he wanted to know what color shirt he had on. And he took a picture of himself, and the person said, "Oh, you have I don't remember what color it was," and described it to him. And he's like, "Oh, good, this is the one I wanted." And then he went out and he walked around, and all of a sudden he goes, "You know what? Someone told him his shirt was on inside out." He says, "Well, I wish the app had told me that."
That drives me nuts. They've gotten away from tags and shirts, which they had to do that just to screw with blind people. I mean.
Yeah, I've had a couple of T-shirts like that. Mostly the sweat vetting ones, and it's like you had to figure out, is it inside out or right side out, because it didn't have the normal label at the top and back of the neck. I guess because they figured it would irritate you doing a workout or something like that. Finally I figured out that there was a label down the left side seam or something, and I said, okay, that has to be on the left side. It's got to be on the inside. So.
The thing that I need help with is for that to tell me if there are any food stains on it. Because I've been convinced that there's no food, and I just got it back from the cleaners, and sure enough, I'll go out and somebody like, "Oh, you have a stain on your shirt." So, Ed, I've been really enjoying our last show's guest's app, iCatcher, man. I'm almost fully converted, where I've been transferring all my feeds from Downcast, because I don't want to be left out in the wind should Downcast stop fully working. But I've really been loving it. It works great with VoiceOver. Tons of options in the app. And Ed, we're giving away 3 free copies of iCatcher.
Yes, we are, and we had a nice showing the first week of the last show that we released, and people can enter the contest up to 3 times by tweeting the episode, last week's episode, and this one when we drop it, and also by retweeting the distribution of the show. So if just share the Facebook posts that we put out there promoting the iAccess episode, and also retweet the tweets that you put out there on Twitter.
Yeah. So we'll be putting those tweets out, and like I said, it's either, as Ed said, it's retweet either our last episode or this episode, and we'll enter you into our drawing, which we will conduct on our next episode. Isn't that correct, Ed?
That is correct. So the next time you hear us after this show, we will announce the 3 winners of the iCatcher promo that our friend was nice enough to give to our listeners.
And our friend is at Joe is a Nerd, still one of the best Twitter handles I've ever heard. So we do thank Joe and iCatcher for 1, making everything very accessible, and 2, letting us give away a few copies of a great app and everything. But Ed, it's been a while since I guess we discussed audio description.
Yeah, at least 1 episode.
Yeah, that's true. But no, more us talking about. There's been really, we had that great episode in December with Joel, and I was hoping by now that we would have seen some movement. And I went in today and looked up to find out what the numbers were, and I was very disappointed to learn that the top 9 networks still only have to provide 50 hours of described video, either in primetime or children's programming, a quarter. I mean, that's just pathetic.
Yeah, so what is that? That works out to just a fraction over 4 hours a week of content out of 100 and what did we say before? 168 hours of content. So only 4 hours of that a week has to be audio description.
And there's been no no movement on this whatsoever. And, this isn't a Republican or a Democratic issue. I mean, this is an issue everybody should get behind. I mean, it's just common sense. It's like, if you're a network and you're providing,
this is the problem we have in the United States, which half our listeners are here in the States, and our friends in the UK, I think they have a third of their programming is audio described, and I know the Japanese markets have a lot of audio described content as well. And you come here and you're restricted to 4 hours a week on a major network like ABC or NBC or CBS. And granted, they may do more. That is the minimum. I don't know the numbers of. I think that CBS does actually have more than 4 hours.
No, I'll tell you. Well, here's the thing that gets my hairs in a raise is ABC and CBS. First off, instead of having described video for their action-packed shows, basically what they've been doing is describing their 30-minute sitcoms, which really don't need described video. So that really bothers me.
You don't need audio description on The Big Bang Theory. It's not that type of show.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have, but you don't really need it. And the networks that really seem to be doing a great job and going above are Fox, as well as the USA Network. And it's funny because you would think Fox is doing such a great job with the network. Well, then why is FX have 0 described video? And the USA Network, which is owned by NBC, does a great job where almost all original programming is described in the USA Network, yet NBC does a really poor job.
Well, how about PBS? PBS, which is, doesn't have the money that the major networks have, and they seem to get the job done. Yeah, they describe a lot of their programming. I don't think it's all, but I think it's up to 70% of their programming is described. Yeah, well, I think that's an issue dealing with the networks themselves and everything else. But still, the one thing I still don't understand, when you have companies like Netflix are doing a great job with audio description, I still cannot comprehend Amazon has no audio described video content. I'm an Amazon Prime member, which gives me access to Amazon Prime Video, and I can't find any audio described content. Yeah, and I would love to know Amazon's excuse, because they sell the DVDs that have the described video track. So I don't understand why their streaming services offers 0 described video. And I don't know why the foundations that went after Netflix have not made more of an effort to go after Amazon to force them, because that's the only way things get done, is if we slap a lawsuit against them. It's the only way that we're going to get described video coming to either A, any of Amazon's original programming, or B, any of their movies and TV shows on Amazon Prime. Yeah, I was at an event last week where one of the keynote speaker was from Comcast and the accessibility department there, and he was almost making it sound as though the current infrastructure can't handle the distribution of all the audio content because of limitations, whether you can have a Spanish language or audio description. He almost made it sound like it was an either or kind of thing, and which doesn't make any sense to me. The pipe is so big now with broadband, and the technology for compression and everything else is remarkable, and I just can't fathom the fact that you can't let through some extra bits of audio content on top of what we're watching or we're streaming to be able to let me have some audio description. Yeah, it really seems like an excuse more than anything. I mean, I know the Spanish track and the audio described track both come through SAP, but I don't see why you couldn't just cycle through and have, you hit the SAP button, one option's Spanish, then you hit it again, the next option's audio description. There's definitely some kind of compression algorithm that they could use to provide it. It just really seems like an excuse, and them not wanting to go out of their way to provide this kind of track to us. Yeah, and the other thing is what's the rule? What's the law? And is it enforceable? And it doesn't appear that there's a lot of teeth in anything that's out there. So yeah, no incentive. There's just no repercussion. There's no penalties. I'd love to go and look back to see how the deaf community originally
instituted closed captioning, and if it was fought this hard. And I believe every program's closed caption now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they fought hard for it, and they got it, and it's wonderful. And I would never, ever, ever begrudge them for it, because it helps, pave the way for us. But something has to break here. And I know we have agencies like American Council of the Blind fighting for this, and I know that NFB has done some stuff with this as well. It just needs to be a stronger, more collaborative effort and a harder push. And some feet need to be held to the fire.
Yeah, no, I agree. And even iTunes they've done a better job, but it just makes no sense to me that there's only a handful of described video tracks when the DVDs have the tracks. So why, if something comes out on DVD with an audio described track, I don't understand why that audio described track shouldn't be an option in iTunes. It just makes no sense to me.
Yep, I agree with you. Maybe we should get Tim Cook on here as a guest and let him just explain it to us.
Hey, we've never reached out to him. What are the odds? Supposedly he does check his email account. I find that very hard to believe. But can you imagine?
He checks the account, looks at it, and says, 20,692 messages this week unread. He goes, okay, somebody check those.
Yeah. He's like, select all, move to trash.
Yep, exactly. So,
but
we've covered this topic quite a bit on our show, and recently you were a guest on Main Menu on ACB Radio, and you did a great job of describing the TiVo system there and talking about audio descriptions and audio described accessibility for controllers. And now we have Randy Resnick from Main Menu, one of the hosts on our show. So why don't we go to Randy and let him give us his insight as to what's going on in this area.
Let's go. Now we'd like to welcome in a guest that anybody who listens to podcasts in the blind community is going to know. It's Randy Resnick from Main Menu. How you doing today, Randy?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on the podcast there, Brian.
Hey, it's our pleasure, Randy. Welcome to iAccess VO. Yes.
Thanks,
don't
Ed.
forget about me.
Oh, who could forget about you?
There you go.
Sometimes we want to forget about you, but we just can't.
Oh, the gloves are already coming off.
There's the cheap shot right there.
Okay. All right, guys.
Now, Randy, a lot of our guests know you from Main Menu, but what a lot of our guests might not know is you had a little podcast before Main Menu. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I started podcasting back in around 2008, and I've done, a lot of work on the net with other people, helping them work with their PCs and stuff. But to start off with the podcasts that I've done, we did this show live, and it was called Accessible Devices. And the show was done just like the old Kinescope days, where you actually got an audience together, or a group of people together, and we met in a virtual room, and we broadcast with about maybe 50 people in the room, and then it got down to 20 and 10. Not because of the content, but in order to survive, people back around 2007 or 2008, everybody was starting to go mobile and portable and listening on different devices. So I talked to the guys, and I said, if we want to survive in this market, we are going to have to do podcasting. And I said, you think it'll work? I don't know. We'll find out. So we got all the website, the hosts and everything all figured out and worked out, and we went on the air podcasting about 2008. And looking back at it, the first show was really weird. as all our first shows are. It was, who we are and what we're all about and everything. And then we started picking up some listeners. Now, I think the best podcast that we ever did, or the most listened to, I should say, not necessarily the best, but it was when the iPhones came out in 2009. Remember you guys the 3GSs?
I had a 3GS. Yeah. And, well, it makes me think, Ed, I recently went back and listened to our first show, and wow, was it awful.
It's very hard to go back and listen to the early shows once you've been doing it for a while. But it's like anything else, you find your voice, you find your format, you just find your groove, and you eventually get that mix going. But
well, we were like you guys. You guys are irreverent. Yeah, you take off the gloves. You do some good. You have some good fun. Do some good shots. And so we were noted as the same type of show. Basically, our listenership with the iPhone, the first iPhone. Oh, I had a good time. It was a 2-parter. And we, at the time, had 16,000 downloads. And for that time period, that was really good.
Yeah, that was for that one episode?
Yeah, well, it's 2 episodes, two iPhone podcasts.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a nice amount of numbers there, especially back then in 2009. I didn't even know. I didn't really get into listening to a podcast until 2011, 2012. So, I was kind of late. I don't know if that was late or early to the game, but it's probably my main source of information now is through podcasts, and there's a lot of great content out there for any topic that you're interested in, and the weirder, the wackier, it's out there.
And we did that podcast for maybe 5 years or something like that.
And when did it end?
It ended about 1.5 years ago. Not because of the content, but people just got tired and they said, we want to just basically not be on air. And so then I was picked up by the guys at ACB Radio. They said, well, let's give a couple of shows a shot. And so I got 2 shows going there now.
And they're paying you the big bucks, right?
Oh, God, I had to move to a new home.
So now that we've established, Randy, that you're a little long in the tooth, talking about kinescope and going back to being one of the early innovators of podcasting, you've been around assistive technology a long time. How do you feel about where we are today with the development of everything and all the different ecosystems and platforms that we're on?
I think we're moving forward and moving backward and moving forward again. I think we're gradually moving forward, but there are a lot of things that get broken along the way. I've seen so many great things in my lifetime for assistive tech. As a matter of fact, I was so involved with it. I used to do what you do now, Ed.
Okay.
And
other than babysitting Brian, what is that?
Gaga goo goo.
See, the main thing is you get paid for that. I had to sit him voluntarily. No, put that down, Brian. Put that down. So I did that for about 12 years. So I really saw things and got my hands on a lot of different tech and tried to really put a lot of things in place that I thought my students would really like. And I see things moving forward, as I stated before, but the thing is, I think we're sort of moving away from a lot of the blindness type products. Kind of. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of book readers out there, and certainly there's, thank goodness, there's a lot of Braille displays coming out, but I just don't see as many blindness-specific products as I used to.
Yeah, no, that's thanks to iOS in part. And you had mentioned that you first discovered, what was it, the iOS with the 3GS?
Yep. Yep. As a matter of fact, I was so enthralled by doing the podcast that a lot of people were doing things that I really wanted to do. Probably about 3 weeks later, I had the iPhone 3GS. I walked out of the store with it, had VoiceOver going, and I was literally in my son's car downloading apps I was that enthralled with it. And you know what? Has never waned once.
What's funny, because I was also a 3GS early adopter, and I got the iPhone. I was all excited. I got home. What was the first thing I downloaded but Trivial Pursuit? And, of course, it didn't work with VoiceOver. I was like, wait a minute. What do you mean? Things don't work with VoiceOver? I thought everything just automatically would work with VoiceOver, and obviously I've learned that's not the case. And I still have that Trivial Pursuit. It's not on my phone, but every now and then I'll go re-download it, and it still does not work with VoiceOver. So, congratulations, Trivial Pursuit, for being inaccessible for 8 years.
Yeah, you know what though, Brian? That early experience you have about something not working with VoiceOver, that's what keeps you tolerant of the Apple TV.
The most useless piece in my toolbox, the Apple TV, and I'm looking forward to the next generation of more things they break with accessibility and ignore, the Apple TV 4.
You don't like the 4th generation. Why don't you? Now I feel like I'm doing the podcast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Why don't you like
I've talked about my dislike, because what I feel with the 3rd generation Apple TV, Apple controlled everything, meaning all the network apps were fully accessible. Now that the networks control the apps, ABC, fully inaccessible, nothing's labeled in the app. You can just press around and get something to play, but you have no clue what it is. The apps are very poorly designed to work with VoiceOver. I think it was the TNT app completely froze up VoiceOver in my Apple TV, causing me to have to reboot the entire Apple TV. So, no, I've been very disappointed with where the Apple TV is heading, and I've definitely expressed that opinion very strongly on this podcast, and I'll continue to do so on any other podcasts.
So what are you using now in lieu of...
well, you know what I'm using. I came on your show, the TiVo, man.
No, I realize that, but...
We're losing control, and he's hijacking our show.
So are you using any kind of Amazon products yet?
Ed and I have both dove around and played around with the Amazon tablets, but how about yourself? We know that you have a long history of iOS and blind-specific devices. Have you ever dabbled in the Droid market?
I got to be honest with you guys. I was given a tablet by Charter Spectrum as an introductory to getting on their program to have the guide speak for Charter Spectrum.
Right. This is part of the December 20th deadline that everybody was supposed to meet for accessibility.
Yes, sir. That was the worst experience I think I've ever had. I think with assistive tech and their attempt at making things accessible. But to answer your question, we'll get into this TV stuff if you want a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
But just to sum it up, I realized we got to be kind of careful here because I don't want to just tout iOS products and leave Android totally out of the picture. I have played with it. I've used it some, and I know it's getting better and better. But for me, I would really like to have productivity continue. I want to see when I get on. I just want to get my work done. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to fight with something. And I know it's getting easier, but right now it's just not for me.
Yeah. Now, I've seen a lot of posts about, I know they're constantly working on developing TalkBack, which is great, but I have seen a lot of posts that they're constantly browsing the web, and can you imagine if iOS broke heading or browsing the web? I mean, people would go bonkers if you broke web browsing on the iOS platform, and I'm seeing it constantly being broken on the Android platform. The one thing, I guess it's good is, there are a decent amount of people using it, so it is constantly being updated.
Yeah, well, here's what I do is when I want to look for something, I get on Google and just type in what I want, or do a voice search, and boom, I I'm kind of amazed at Google Voice, actually, because if I do a Google search by voice on my iPhone, I'll say, like, bring up a recipe for chicken Kiev, and it literally says, here you are, and just starts sometimes actually even reading out a recipe and or whatever it is. So my experience is just really good with Google and on the iProducts.
I haven't used the Google in a while, Ed, because every time I would use it, I'd say, bring up a recipe for chicken Kiev, and then it would say cancel. Because VoiceOver and everything was, everything wanted to
it's
cancel
either that
everything.
or it would start giving you directions in Kiev.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like...
Yeah, there's always that.
Get on a boat and head this way.
So Randy, then, having done your other podcasts and having been, an assistive technology instructor, teacher for a while and everything, how did you exactly land on Main Menu then? ACB Radio had approached you directly, or was that something you had done from being a member of ACB?
How it happened, actually, was a co-host of the show that I'm working on as well, called Cooking with the Hazelnuts. My co-host, Debbie Hazelton, actually approached me and wanted to know if I wanted to do a cooking show. And I said, sure. And we had a long talk, probably maybe about an hour. And she heard the podcasting that I've done, and she was interested in doing a cooking show with me. So I got off the phone, and I was invited to a conference on ACB Radio with a lot of the folks that I had heard on ACB Radio, and I thought, I wonder where this is going. And we got to talking, and Jeff Bishop, who you guys all know, he said to me, what approach would you like to see Main Menu take? And I gave him my reaction, how I'd like to see the show going, and he said to me, okay, let's go with that. And I was really surprised. No trial, no nothing. I just got on and started doing it, with with one other person. Then we got a third team member on. And so, from there, it was really interesting because my friend Jason, who Brian, Jason Castengay, he actually made up a whole new Main Menu theme, produced it himself, and I'll never forget the first Main Menu that I was involved with. We started it off with the old theme, started off with the old sounding theme, and then I pasted in a big rewind segment. There was just a whole segment of rewinding, maybe about 5 seconds, and then I said something like hold it in the middle of rewinding, and then we came on with a brand new theme in the opening of the Main Menu show, which had been going now for about almost 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I listened to Main Menu before you had taken over, and I was big listening to the Serotech guys back then, and then they ran that thing into the ground. But legendary implosion there. But so I've enjoyed listening to the show Main Menu, and if our listeners have not listened to it, it's a great source of knowledge for the PC and Windows as well as iOS. So really across the board and everything. I would definitely recommend people listen to that show after listening to our show, of course, right, Ed?
Of course, yeah. This show takes much more precedence over our show.
Exactly. Now, you had started to mention earlier Spectrum, and I know that you've been working with Spectrum to help improve that interface, which is not fully accessible. Where's that at? How are things going working with Spectrum?
Well, let me just say that I've been working with all the guys that deal with accessibility. I have never been more kind of in shock the way I had to move myself up through the ranks just to get in contact with these guys. It took a lot of work and a lot of effort just to get to talk to the guys. The main people behind accessibility, which now there are, that I know of, maybe 4 people they're very smart and forward-thinking, and really do want to make a difference. And I'm not saying that just to plug them, but I mean, it is true. When I started talking with them, I told them a lot of my ideas, and so gradually they started emailing me and talking with me and things like that. And a lot of people are, a few people are saying, well, I wouldn't give away my knowledge of things like, well, do you guys want accessibility, or do you guys just want to go the way it is? And so I was giving my suggestions.
People were the same way with me when I started working with Yahoo. Well, you should be getting paid to do that. I'm like, I just want their fantasy games and apps to be accessible.
Oh, and now they are, aren't they? Now
yes,
they are.
They are. Yes,
yeah,
they are.
Yeah. See, I do listen to your show. The first introduction to accessibility for the company, and I knew it was just doomed to failure, but I did it anyway just to sort of move through the various steps. When the technician came out, he was only supposed to be here for about an hour working with not only the cable system that I was having issues with the router and everything, but I was the first person. I'm in the Minnesota area, so I was the first person in Minnesota to get the tablet. And probably the last.
Now, what is it? It's a tablet that's connected
Here's
over
what it
your
is.
network?
Here's what it is. It's a locked tablet with Spectrum. And you can use their app, and you can kind of tinker around and do various few other things, but not much more. And it's a Samsung tablet. It's a beautiful Android tablet. It fits nice in the hand, and it even fits nicer in the box.
It blows my mind that certain cable networks got it from the beginning, such as Verizon, Fios, Comcast. And then Cablevision and Spectrum, it's like they came up with these tablet ideas and dongles, and it's like, what are you doing here? You're making things more complicated, it's...
Well, let me just say the reason for a lot of that stuff is met with resistance within the company. I don't have to do it because it's something that I don't have to do. Oh, there's a law invoked. Well, maybe we can skirt around the issue. There aren't that many low vision or blind people that really care about TV anyway. And that kind of thinking went out in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when I first started watching cable, I had a tech come out and they go, well, and I talked tech with them, and I got to talking about their set-top box. And as the technician was leaving, and this is probably around 1983, he said, well, now, if you guys want, if you want any more questions, you just have your mom call us up and
Well, we tried to get your mom on the podcast so she can answer the questions.
Well, you'd have to go a long way, I'm afraid.
One of the problems I think here, Randy, is that the fact that, and I don't think there's been any fines or sanctions or anything like that. I mean, they come up with this December 20th, 2016
You're right, there aren't
deadline.
any. You're correct.
But there's no teeth in the bill. There's nothing there. All they had to do was show they made some kind of an effort. So if they took one tablet and sent it to one user in Minnesota named Randy, well, look, we made an effort.
Well, the effort
You're
was
to
made,
blame,
yes.
Randy.
So you can blame me for the continuing non-accessibility of the product, but it didn't stop there.
I'm curious. I mean, it's just so mind-blowing to me that there's no repercussions. I'm wondering what other laws have been created where when companies don't meet them, there's no fines or sanctions or actions taken, Can you run people over nowadays? That's the law, and I'm not going to pay attention to that.
Look at Netflix. They got a slap on the wrist, right?
Yeah, they did a complete 180, though. I got to give Netflix credit. I mean, they're fantastic now.
Yep.
They finally got it,
Mm-hmm.
But it did take potential legal action to get them going.
Well, I have to be forthright with you guys and tell you that I was so upset because I just wasn't getting anywhere. Now, I have been in contact, as I told you before, with the Spectrum guys. And before this all started, I was so upset with the lack of accessibility and them just not wanting to do anything about it. I talked to a lot of my good friends that were up in the in ACB that I really said, hey, we got to do something. So I got in contact with one of the FCC members for ACB, and I wrote out this really long thing, and I got an immediate answer back. I'd say within just a couple of minutes. Thank you for such an involved email, and we're aware of the situation. And I can't give exact dates. I don't really want to because there's really no need for more hand slapping, really. But
they're like Apple. We know there's a problem. We can't tell you when there will be a fix, but we're aware of it.
Well, I kind of am. I kind of was told about when the fix may be started.
You just don't want to. Okay, gotcha.
And having said that, I've really have started to see some great improvements since since a person was hired for accessibility, who is like, what is he now? The senior in charge of accessibility. Before that, I was talking to the vice president in charge of accessibility. So there's a lot of titles floating around, and they're really a neat couple of guys. They really are. So what I'm seeing now is, I'm seeing a device, and this is another interim type of deal, but it's not going to be like the tablet. So let's just say for right now, and I can certainly introduce a piece to you guys a little bit later and do a demonstration that is that's coming. I think you guys may find it likable, but we are seeing a kind of a TiVo-like device, and you guys can probably guess what I'm talking about. I can't really say what it is right now, but it also comes in stick form. And this will be provided to a few of us testers. And of us testers, there are 30 of us out there cross-sectioned. And quite honestly, the reason that we're cross-sectioned is because we made the most noise about accessibility and said, hey, we got to get things done. This is just not an interim thing. Let's start moving this thing forward. And by doing it, they are offering this device with the Spectrum app deployed on this device, which the Spectrum app needs some improvement as well. But they are working on that. But this is kind of like an anchor to the into the app, and the guide will work and fully with speech. And the only thing that really won't be working and is supposed to be working within the next couple of months will be DVR. And compared to the TiVo device, I mean, they got a lot of work ahead of them.
Yeah, no, TiVo's done a phenomenal job, and now I'd just like to see some updates to the changes that I've suggested, improvements and stuff. But it's still only been 4 or 5 months since TiVo introduced their screen reader, their built-in screen reader. And I am not a Spectrum customer, but I did have a fun experience with them on Twitter because I got sick and tired of getting a new piece of mail every day from Spectrum letting me know they were no longer Time Warner. And I let them know about that on Twitter, and sure enough, they got back to me and said, direct message them my address, and they'll get me on the do not mail list. I was basically saying, you're mailing a blind guy mail every day that I have to scan to make sure it's not a bill. You're killing me here. And they said, that'll just take us 6 months to get done. So if it takes 6 months to get put on a do not mail list, God only knows how long it's going to take to make the box fully accessible. But besides the box being fully accessible, what else do you hope to see from assistive tech in the second half of 2017?
I'd like to see better updates. I think to the Victor Reader Stream. The latest update 4.8 was certainly a good product. A lot of people are having issues with it, though. I myself have not had any issues with it. I'd like to see them work with that a little bit more. I'd like to see more wearable devices.
I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them add Bluetooth to the Victor Reader
Oh God!
upgrade at some point.
Yeah, we're talking about a whole new device, though.
Right.
Here's what I'd like to see. I would really love to. I hear there are rumblings out there of a new player being worked on for the States. No, notice I said States. No, not the state, but like the players that we have, Ed, that
from National Library Service.
From National Library Service, yeah.
Right.
Well, they're going to build. Hopefully, it's being worked on. As I say, I heard rumblings about it of an online player, and now that would be really cool. I'd like to see that come out.
Yeah, that'd be pretty wild. But well, this has been a ton of great information, Randy. Why don't you let our listeners know how they can follow you and just keep up? I'm sure you're letting the public know as you can what's going on with Spectrum and how they can follow Main Menu as well.
Oh, sure. The best way to actually get a hold of me, if you want, is just to follow me on Twitter, and it's all run together. The big R all run together, so it'll come out the bigger when you see it. So if you want to reach me, then that's how to do it. That's the easiest way.
And I believe it's at Main Menu as well?
Yep, at Main Menu, yep. And you can we don't really tweet all that much there, but do give our cast a listen to. I think you'll really like the new format. Well, the new, soon to become the older format.
Now, one question I'm curious about, because when I was on Main Menu, I was looking... Do you guys broadcast live on Friday and then the podcast version's not available for the next few days? Is that how it works?
Well, we're not actually live. I mean, we Jason and I edit the material and then we run it as a recorded show.
Okay.
So we're not actually live.
Okay.
We do it like you guys do.
Ed, you...
So we record...
Listening. I'm just trying to figure out how we do it. Yeah, no, we do the same thing. We record and we edit and then we piece it all together and do all the drops and the intros, the outros, and put the music down, stuff like that. And it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to do that. I mean, I think for every hour of recording, there's probably 5 or 6 hours behind the scene work.
Yeah, just one little quick note on this is the podcast that I did for, or that we did for the iPhone back in 2009. I figured it out one time, and people asked me, "How long does it take something to put it together?" And I think I put about 36 hours into that 2-part show.
Wow!
Straight.
So no, I was drinking vodka at the time.
Well, that'll get the job done.
Some of it came out backwards, but that's okay. They just had to figure out how to reverse it.
Did it say Paul McCartney's dead?
We buried Paul. So now you can tell how old I am, right?
Yeah. Our younger listeners are, who's Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
Well, Randy, this has been a lot of fun. You're always a great guy to talk to, and looking forward to seeing what happens there with Spectrum.
Yeah, Randy, thanks for coming on. It's always a pleasure having somebody on the show who's older than I am. And thanks for bringing all your great wealth of information and your great experience.
That's because I'm older than you are.
This is true.
Especially on having you guys ask me to come on iAccessVO, and I will continue listening to your show because, seriously, it keeps me thinner from working on the treadmill, and it gives me a lot of information. And keep up the good work, guys. A great pleasure.
You're listening to Brian and Ed on iAccessVO.
That was Randy Rusnick from Main Menu, and Randy got to let his hair down a little there, Ed.
Yeah, that's the thing when you do an indie show like we do. I mean, we don't have to answer to anybody, so there's nobody but you and I going over the notes and doing the final edits and things like that. So, but and I understand that. I mean, Randy's on main menu, which is part of ACB Radio, and he has to keep everything politically correct and prim and proper, and which is fine. And he does great advocacy for the blind community. So, but it was nice to have him over here, and let him get down and dirty a little bit.
Yeah, no. Randy's a great advocate for the blind, and I was really shocked that he's been in podcasting since I believe he said it was 08 or 09, and that's really when before things really started to blow up. So he's
was that 1908 and 09?
Yeah, he's a pioneer for podcasting for the blind. He actually came over on the Mayflower and began podcasting right away. He podcasted at the first Thanksgiving, I believe. Isn't that correct?
Well, that's why we know everything about that event.
It was Randy and Pocahontas, I believe. See, Brian knows his history.
I think John Smith is still not speaking with him.
They did have that major falling out. I remember reading about it in the history books. We love you, Randy, but you are ancient now. So anyway, moving on. Ed, I think something's pissing me off.
No, really? This week too?
Yeah, this week too, man. Something's pissing off Brian because I have a unique way of doing things, I guess you could say, and I'm one of those people that always leaves my desktop on, and I have several emails that one, like for example, will be future guests for podcasts. I have it as a draft just so I can edit it, and it's always there, and I can just toggle to it. And one thing I notice when working with text and email, and it's something that Apple and Mac just can't seem to get right, at least for me, is when you select tests in the app, in the Mac, in Mail, and you're selecting it to delete it, multiple words, once you hit delete, you think it would take you immediately to the next word, but 99% of the time, the mails either jump me all the way to the top of the email or to all the way to the bottom, and it drives me insane.
Oh, okay. So what you're telling me, this is for the Mac, yeah? Because when you put this in the show notes, and I saw them this morning, I spent a lot of time working on editing emails, but I was doing it on my iPhone. I wasn't sure. I thought you were talking about iOS, not the Mac.
No, my bad. I guess I need to be more specific, because when you said that you weren't having this problem, I was like, oh, great. This is another problem that's affecting just me. But I guess I should have been more descriptive to let you know that this is a problem with the Mac. And, this is something very basic that I don't understand. It's just certain things on the Mac with VoiceOver, Apple just seems like they can't get right. I don't know. I don't even know if you'd call this a bug, or I think it's just poor design is what you would call this. When you're editing text, and like you've probably noticed it when you were editing text on the iPhone and you selected multiple words and deleted them, was VoiceOver on the iPhone putting you on the next word?
No, the cursor would stay right where it was.
Okay, well, yeah.
It would delete what I wanted to, and
it wasn't jumping you to the beginning.
No, it wasn't jumping me around. And the nice feature I liked about it too was I was able to use the shaking the phone to undo, and it would undo the delete.
Now, were you dictating and shaking the phone? Because that's a separate function.
I did both. So I would dictate. I dictated the initial message because I just wanted to get it in there quickly, and then I was using the text select and the editing and everything else, and then using the delete key on the delete button on the virtual keypad. And then when I would delete it, I saw the cursor was there, but then I would go back and read the whole thing, make sure everything I had selected was deleted, and then I would just shake the phone, and I'd get the undo would come up, and I would say yes, and it would reinsert everything that I had deleted. So I was.
Oh, that's cool. I've never done that. Yeah, I've done the when you dictate and Siri completely butchers everything you say. I've used that shake to select everything, undo dictation. And it highlights, and you don't even have to hit the delete. Once it just highlights, and say you're dictating, and it'll highlight everything.
Dictate over it.
Yeah, then you can just dictate over it. Exactly. Yeah, so it saves you one step and everything. So I guess we're giving Apple.
I haven't done it that way.
What's that?
I haven't done it that way, but yeah, now that you mention it, as long as it's selected, it's like anything else. If the selection is there, you hit the keyboard or start dictating, it should just overwrite
exactly
the selection.
So it's saving you one step for finding that delete key. Yeah. I used to do it that way where I would highlight everything and then hit the delete key, but then I realized you don't have to hit the delete key.
Right. Yeah, as long as it's selected, then you're good to go. And that's true on Windows side too. If something is selected, you just have to you don't have to hit delete, you don't have to hit backspace. Just the minute you hit a key, other than the arrow keys or the home and the end key, you're going to be able to just overwrite.
Yeah, and I'll give Apple, they're doing a great job with editing text on the iOS side, but on the Mac side, once again, they're laying an egg.
Well, you know what? You're just going to have to work with your iPad or your iPhone a little more on that mail list.
Well, the problem is I like having that real keyboard. And I know we discussed the keyboard, the Logitech K780 on the last podcast. I really enjoy. I've gotten used to the round keys. It's a real nice feel to the keys on this keyboard. So it took me a little, because I've always been used to square keys, but it's got a very nice design to it. So a real sleek feel and everything. I really do like the rounded keys.
Good. Kudos for Apple for one thing, but there's been a few disappointments we've both had recently, and sometimes I wonder where the commitment for accessibility is. Is it in the forefront? Is it just an afterthought? And then something caught my eye a couple of days ago, and it turns out that BlackBerry is not dead. So apparently they had licensed the BlackBerry brand to a Chinese company, the TCL Communications, and they just came out with a brand new BlackBerry smartphone that has a keypad, the QWERTY keypad on it. So it is the new KEYone Blackberry. It has the QWERTY keypad. It has a fingerprint recognition on the keypad side. It has gestures are accepted there as well, so it works a little bit like the trackball used to work with the old BlackBerry. Has a 4.5-inch touchscreen display, and it's running Android 7, the new Nougat operating system. So, which means you would have the TalkBack feature on it.
Yeah, that's the only problem. It's still TalkBack.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm telling you, I know it's some people swear by it. It has gotten better, and this might be the one thing that has people tempting to check out the dark side. The fact that they've got something tactile to deal with, like with that keyboard. Brian, come on, we both teach people. We run it. We work with the blind community, and there are people who struggle with the touchscreen. They just do. Yeah,
and. I mean, it's great that there's an option, and this is just one more option. I mean, me, I've not been very pleased with the Droid side of things. I have seen that they're constantly breaking web browsing, which would drive me insane. I do like the fact I do give them credit. There seems to be a lot of development going on with TalkBack. They're much more out and open about what they're doing. I mean, come on. When was the last time, if ever, you've ever heard Apple say, here's what we're doing with VoiceOver?
Exactly. I mean, Apple is like so stealthy about anything they do. You just don't know. You hear rumors, and, majority of the rumors you hear just never come true.
You know what I'm going to do before the next show? I'm going to contact somebody at WikiLeaks to see if we could get them to come up with some information about what Apple's doing with VoiceOver, because that's the only way you'd ever hear anything, is if WikiLeaks got involved.
Somehow, I just don't think it would show up very high on anybody's radar.
Yeah, but I think the VoiceOver, what they're doing with it, is a better kept secret than what the CIA's doing.
Yes, I think you are correct there, my friend.
So, wow. Well, what episode is this? 41?
41. Hey, you know what? You're doing pretty well, man. I love that you are learning how to count.
Yeah. I can at least count to my age, which we're getting close to, but it'll still be, about 2 years before we hit your age?
Yeah, I think two and a half more years.
You think you can make it that long?
I'm planning on it.
No, we kid because we love. And, it's been a slow news period, but we've got the contest going on, and the Echo, who knows? Maybe we'll be excited when we hear more information about the Night. I'm not really seeing a use for it, but Yeah, so there is a lot of stuff coming up on the horizon in the next few weeks. But
oh, sure. Yeah, and people can go and revisit some of the apps we mentioned earlier too, like TapTapSee and BeSpecular, and sometimes, especially in that area, in that AI area, I mean, the developments are really coming in phases. So, if it may not have done what you wanted it to do, or your expectations were a little blown out 6 or 8 months ago, check it out again, because with these updates, it just keeps getting better and better. And there is one more app I did want to mention, and this is the NantMobile mobile money reader. Used to be the LookTel money reader. Did you pay for that app, Brian?
So long ago, I don't even remember. I probably did probably way back in the 3GS.
At the time, right. So at the time when it first came out, it was a $9.99 app for the LookTel money reader. Now it's the NantMobile money reader, and it's free, and it still works as well and as robust as ever. It has been updated. It does run on the 64-bit architecture, which is great, because over the years I have been a lot of times recommending iNote, which is put out by the U.S. Treasury Department, and iNote was a great app for having a free money reader at that time. But that one, I think, is going to be disappearing, because it's still running 32-bit architecture, and I just do not see the U.S. government updating that app in time. So come iOS 11, I don't think you'd be able to use it. So go ahead and download NANT Mobile Money Reader, and that is your new free money reading app. Does multiple currencies for all different countries, does the euro, does the U.S. dollar. So check it out.
What will come first? That the government will mandate that networks must have 100 hours of described video a quarter, or the iNote U.S. government app will be updated to 64-bit architecture?
Something tells me we'd end up with 100 hours of content before they update that app.
Yeah, well, it'll take an act of Congress for them to update the app.
It's going to take an act of Congress to get 100 hours of content. Guess what? Neither one of those are going to happen.
No, that's why if a whole designated survivor thing happened, that would be a good start with Congress.
All right, my friend.
Perfect. And I guess for now, Ed, we are out.
You have been listening to iAccess VO. If you'd like to contact us with ideas and suggestions for future podcasts, please email us at iaccessvo@gmail.com or visit our website at www.accessquest.org.